All right, let's officially start the podcast. Welcome to Cord Cutting This Week, episode number 18, the podcast where we cover some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting from the past week, and we try to break them down and give you our opinion on them. Now, this is our opinion. We have all the stories we're covering in the show notes down below, where you can listen to them down there, so read about them for yourself and leave us a comment. But we are making a slight change to the podcast this week. We are going live at 1 p.m. Eastern now, going forward on Thursdays. That just kind of works a little bit better for our schedules, as we've kind of struggled to get all the morning news, get the morning Cord Cutting Today show out, and then get into the podcast. So that helps, I think, mostly me out the most. So hang in there. But Jess, now that people can hear you, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Never a dull moment working at Cord Cutters News.
No, never a dull moment. And never a dull moment in cord cutting news, because there has been nothing to talk about. I mean,
No, nothing. No breaking news, no huge stories, nothing.
I mean, it's not like Roku announced new streaming players, a new OS today, 200 cable companies suing to block a la carte TV, MoviePass shutting down, police shutting down a massive IPTV network. There is absolutely nothing to talk about. It's a complete snooze fest. So should we shut down? Just call it a day, everybody?
Call it a day. I'm just going to take the rest of the week off, maybe the whole month.
Yeah. No, I'm on vacation next week, not you. No, thank you to everybody who has come here. We really appreciate it. And yeah, so let's dive into some of the biggest things that are happening in the world of cord cutting right now. If you have a question, keep it at the end of the podcast. We'll dive into some of the stories, let you know everything that's happened, and answer your questions. So let's get into it. Number one, should we start with Roku announcing new streaming players?
Absolutely.
All right. Roku's announced a whole new line of streaming players, a pretty significant update to their lineup. Probably the main one being the new Roku Ultra. It's much faster than the older version, more internal memory, which they say will result in a 33% increase in channel loading when you're switching channels and more in services like Sling TV, Hulu, YouTube TV, and more. The top 100 Roku channels that they tested will see on an average 17% jump in performance. And maybe the feature everybody's most excited about, new programmable quick launch buttons. So you're going to be able to say, hey, on my Roku remote, I want this button to go and launch this or that, or even record a voice command to execute a search or more through the programmable quick button. So really cool feature there. Really excited to see them add that feature. The Roku Express is getting smaller and using less power. The good news of that is it should lower your power bill maybe slightly, but it will also make it be able to be powered by your TV. So they say the vast majority of TVs will be able to now power the Roku Express through the USB port on the TV. Cool feature change there. There is still the Roku Express Plus, which includes a point-anywhere remote, sold exclusively at Walmart. Now Walmart's getting another exclusive now, the Roku Ultra LT, which is a slightly stripped-down version of the Roku Ultra with no USB port. So if you don't ever use the USB port on your Roku, you could save some money. Doesn't have the expanded internal memory or the improved speed, but did keep the fast AC Wi-Fi Ethernet port, and it's basically the 2018 Roku Ultra without the Find My Remote, without the ability to have a USB port. But you save $20 versus the other one. And then Best Buy is getting an exclusive Roku with the Roku Streaming Stick Plus HE, or also Headphone Edition. It's exactly the same as the Roku Stick Plus with 4K HDR, same processor, same everything, but they add a headphone jack to the remote so you can get private listening through that. So we'll get into what they're dropping and what some other changes, but let's see what we think about this lineup. Jess, what do you think about the new Roku lineup of new players?
I think that they have a great lineup. And like you said, the thing that I think we're most excited about are these programmable buttons. We get questions about this all the time. People have been asking for this for what seems like years, and Roku came through with this new Ultra Remote Edition.
Yeah, it's a really nice addition. I think the power of that is going to make it a must-have, and they kept it at $99, which significantly undercuts the Apple TV and undercuts the new Fire TV Cube, which is very powerful, but it's an extra $20 over the Roku. So I'll be interested to get both of them side by side. Okay, which one's really faster? Because I can talk about on paper, right? The first gen Fire TV Cube was very powerful on paper. But in the home user experience, because they were splitting that processor between the Fire TV and the built-in Echo, it wasn't exactly the most powerful streaming player out there. Now they're really ramping up the processing power to address that issue. So I'm kind of interested to see. I want to get this in my hands, right? Let me play around with this. What is this actually like when I use it? Is it anything like what we thought it would be? So the other thing here, what do you think about the Walmart version of it?
I think it's fine. And actually, something I wanted to point out was that in the comments on that story that you posted this morning, somebody said there are just too many different versions of the Roku, and it's hard to keep track of them all. It's hard to choose between them all, which sounds a lot like what people say about streaming services, too. There's just too many options. And they said that they prefer the Apple TV, where it's either Apple TV with this amount of storage or this amount, and they want it that way. And that's fine. But I feel like Roku has done such a good job of creating all these different products available to different audiences and available at different price points. They've really got a great lineup.
You know, that's kind of one of those double-edged swords, right? There is a lot of streaming options here. They've actually pared it down slightly, and we'll get to that in a moment. But the HE version is only at Best Buy, and the LT version of the Ultra is only at Walmart. So it's not like when you go on Amazon.com, you're going to see 30 versions. You're actually going to have the same amount, I think the exact same number of streaming players for sale on Walmart than like you had before this. So I'm not all that concerned about that because it doesn't seem to be hurting Roku. You know, if anything, Roku sales have been increasing recently by what we're hearing. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to see if that does hurt them. But to kind of help with that, Roku's announced that they're discontinuing the HD Roku Stick. The Roku Stick Premier Plus is being discontinued. So they're kind of moving the Premier to be the Roku Stick discount version, which I think is a fine move. The Roku Stick HD was okay, but if you had that $10, it was just so much better to go get the Roku Stick Plus. Same with the Fire TV. Getting the Fire TV Stick was okay, but spending the extra $10 for the Fire TV Stick Plus version was well worth it. So it'll be interesting to see what can happen there.
Yeah, definitely. In my opinion, there's no such thing as too many options. So if you only have $30 to spend, you have an option. If you want something with much more power, you have that option too. I think Roku is doing a great job.
Yeah, so I think they're onto something here. I think there's definitely something for them to do here where they can go and offer something for everybody, being the big feature there, where they can offer the ability to have a streaming player that meets your needs, a streaming player that meets your budget, and still offer the high end, the low end, and the mid range. But it would be nice if they could find a way to maybe tweak it a little bit. I think the problem too is a little bit of Best Buy wants their exclusive, Walmart wants their exclusive, right? And Best Buy and Walmart are so huge, we have to keep them happy.
Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. And I mean, Roku is doing what they need to do to keep their business growing, and obviously they're doing something right because they're doing incredible.
Yeah. So this is only half the news, though, because they're also launching Roku OS 9.2. Jess, can you tell us about what they're doing there?
Sure, yeah. So this is a massive update to Roku players and Roku TVs. So the update will be rolling out in the coming weeks. So if you're turning on your Roku now and you're not seeing any updates, it's coming. It's not coming today, but it'll be here. There are a ton of features that are included in the OS 9.2 update. So I'm just going to kind of quickly run through all of those updates, all of these features. So first of all, there's Roku Zones, and these are curated content sections. So they'll have different themes. They talked about maybe doing the themes for different holidays, and just to look for things like hit movies or Halloween movies or things like that. So that will all be included in Roku Zones. There's also a 4K Spotlight channel where you will find 4K titles and dedicated 4K channels. They are adding sleep timers to Roku TVs. This is a huge one, and this is something that we've heard a lot about too. People want the option to have their Roku TV automatically turn off at a certain time so that it's not running all night.
You know,
So
one
that's
thing with
something
that,
that.
they did have that, but I think they're allowing you to set it by your voice now. That's the big thing. You can get
Oh,
more
okay, gotcha,
specific
gotcha.
on the time for it. Instead of just saying 1 hour, 2 hours, you can say at
11
11
p.m.
p.m. Yeah. So that's the difference
Yeah,
there.
that was the thing that I noticed was that it wasn't by the hours. It was saying specifically what time you wanted to turn off. Should have specified that. Sorry about that. They are also doing a voice search where you can search by a movie quote. And the example that they gave during our call the other day was "Show me the money." So if you were to search with your voice the quote "Show me the money," the movie would show up for you. You could watch Jerry Maguire. You can also use your voice command to search for 4K content just by saying 4K. There's also a voice command support for Roku media players, so you can say things like play, skip, etc. In addition to these voice commands, you can now use Alexa and Google Assistant, which you could use with Roku before, but now you can use it to control multiple Roku devices throughout your house. There is a Roku tips and tricks channel coming where you can learn tips and tricks for how to best use your Roku. And then they're making some overall improvements in channel performance, things like cutting down on loading times. They're adding Roku TV support for the wireless subwoofer, and they're adding a customizable shortcut section on the home screen so that you can set it yourself to more easily and quickly find the apps that you are looking for. So you mentioned, Luke, whenever you were talking about the devices, that the Ultra is getting this like fast launch feature. And that is specific to the Roku Ultra, but they're also doing improvements in overall performance on all of the devices.
Yeah. You know, the thing you gotta love about Roku too is they have a habit of like, okay, here's all the cool stuff we're doing in this update. And then you start using it and you're like, is this a new feature? That looks pretty cool. What's this? And
Yeah.
Roku, they love to slip stuff in and they love to hide it a little bit. Guest mode, the ability to access, you know, have a guest use your Roku and log in with their information and then have it automatically restore all your logins and stuff when they're done, was one of those kind of features where they slipped it in. Fast launch and some other different features where it played around with the Roku Ultras or Roku TVs and more. Some of the settings on it were all unannounced, cool new features that ended up being some of the most popular features on the new Roku update. So I'm very interested to see which one will roll out next. So, or which hidden feature will be in this update. But all these updates, I think the improvements, the performance, the improvements to launching, the voice command changes, I think are probably the ones I'm most excited about. What about you?
Yeah, there's lots of good stuff. And also, like you said, they have some of these hidden updates that they don't announce in these PR releases and things. And a lot of those we'll probably be able to find out more about in this Roku Tips and Tricks channel, which I think sounds pretty cool. It sounds like they'll just have short little videos saying, oh, did you know that you can also do this? Here's a video about how to do it.
I think they're taking our idea. I'm kidding. No, I love that idea. I love that the helps, it's basically the tip and trick section will be short help videos inside the Roku. Currently with streaming players, if you want help, you want to look at their help videos, you have to leave the streaming player, go over to Roku's website or Amazon's website to view all the help videos. Now to have them just right in the menus on your Roku, I think that's a great feature, and that's something I expect other streaming players to copy. Because once somebody does it, it's kind of one of those things you look at, it's like, why didn't I think of that? Have all the help videos on a streaming player be able to be watched on the streaming player. So,
Yeah, and I think some are doing that. Is it PlayStation that has a dedicated channel? I think it might be PlayStation View.
inside streaming service, yeah, there's some on streaming services, but to have it on the streaming player,
Yes.
because I could easily see Roku. So you're launch a new Roku, and it's like, hey, is this your first time using a Roku? If so, we have these helpful videos here where you can learn more. Click here. So I love that feature, and I love it that it's going to be there for everybody, because I've been using a Roku for a long time, and no matter how many times I see this or I see these features, I always learn something new. So that is something I would highly recommend people check out, because you may, even if you think you know everything, you may learn something new. So what other OS 9.2 features should we point out?
I just think something that I'm excited about, and I mentioned this to the people at Roku, their improvements in channel performance. I think that's just going to be a huge one. I feel like a Roku is already pretty quick whenever you're switching from one app to the next, or even just loading the Roku. I feel like it's pretty quick, but they're making improvements in that, and I think that's going to be huge for cord cutters.
Yeah. The great thing here is Roku says that this OS will start rolling out in the next few weeks. So it'll slowly roll out to all current gen Roku players. No Roku will probably take them a month or more before all Roku players have it. But we should be able to see some of this on the new players when they come out. Often Roku has that preloaded or will soon be loaded after they go live for sale. And hopefully current generation Roku TVs and Roku players will get it in the weeks and months to come. Anything else we should add about any of the new players or the OS before we move forward?
I don't think so. Just head over to cordcuttersnews.com if we went through those a little too quickly for you and you want some more details.
All right. Police have shut down an illegal IPTV service with 50 million subscribers. So yesterday, police in Italy, Netherlands, France, Bulgaria, and a few other countries apparently, I heard this morning they may have there may have been additional raids in other countries, have taken down a company called Xtremes-Codes. Now, Xtremes-Codes was kind of the back end. They sold a pre-made IPTV kit to anyone who wanted to go start selling IPTV services. And they took care of your processing, your subscriber management, and apparently even offered access to many of the channels out there. And now with this going down, at the time of the raid, the police said 800,000 plus people were watching live TV. And they have accounts now for over 50 million people who had subscribed to these services. And the accounts for thousands of resellers. This is a massive takedown here. Now, not all IPTV services, I get the emails and stuff that say, well, this one wasn't taken down or that one wasn't taken down, but most of them were. One second.
Yeah, we also got an email this morning from someone just specifically saying mine was taken down. I was watching one of these and now it's gone.
Yeah, so not all of them were technically taken down as part of this, but the vast majority have been. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. So Jess, why don't you grab this for a second?
Sure. So like Luke said, this wasn't all of them, but it was a massive amount. And we get questions all the time about these IPTV services, whether they are legal, illegal. We are not trying to tell anyone what to do or what not to do. However, we were just reporting on the news. So we've been getting a lot of comments on this story and on the Facebook page, just asking questions about these IPTV services. So yeah, we are only here to report on the story.
Yeah, what's interesting here is so many people were always like, well, if you take one down, more will pop up. And well, they were popping up because of companies like this one who just says, hey, pay us a monthly fee, you go resell your service, and you make a profit off of that. And you pay us for the right to do that. And by taking this down, it severely limits the ability for new ones to pop out. Now, this is probably not the last takeout. There are probably other companies like this out there. This just seemed to be the largest and maybe the most well-known. And by taking it down, we have heard that it has significantly put a dent into IPTV streaming services. The biggest question I get are, hey, I lost my IPTV service. I had prepaid for a year or more. Am I getting my money back? I can't tell you that. I don't know. That's the tough thing about these kind of services. When they go down, you may not get your money. They say they've taken several hundred PayPal accounts have also been seized that were used to manage the payments for these services. So for now, we'll wait and see. What I'm interested to see is the videos posted online and in the press conference is the police were basically like, hey, we got the hard drives, we got the flash drives, we have people's names, subscribers, payment methods, and more. Are they going to turn around and go after people? I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're not going to go after the IPTV subscribers, but Dish has been. Dish, anybody they can get their name on, has been sending threatening letters demanding payment or they'll sue. So will they go after this? Plus, all these other smaller IPTV sellers, a couple thousand of them, 5,000 of these, they have the names, probably contact information and more of these resellers. So if they start seeing resellers go to jail, are new people going to jump up and say, I'm going to do that, knowing other people are facing jail time? And to give you an idea of just how big this is, there's a little under 90 million pay TV subscribers in America. 50 million people were subscribed through this service that was managing the resale for other ones out there. That's huge. So this is a dent. The police are serious about this. Content owners are serious about this. They seem very dedicated to shut these down. So I don't know, Jess, what do you think?
Yeah, like you said, it's huge. And we've been hearing more stories like this recently. So I think it's just very important to realize, like on the Facebook group, a lot of times the cord cutting tech support Facebook group, people are always asking about IPTV services, and we shut down those conversations pretty quickly. It's for reasons like this. We don't want our name being attached to services like this that are getting shut down for being illegal. Like we always say, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If you are paying $10 for 3,000 channels, it's probably not on the up and up. And you can make decisions for yourself, but we can't recommend services that are definitely illegal.
You know, the other thing is, if they're trying to split the hair, they're saying, well, streaming is legal, but download is not. Streaming is downloading. You just don't save a copy to your computer. That you still download the video, watch it, and then it auto deletes the video. So it's definitely, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So far, the idea that just streaming it is legal hasn't held up in any courts, just to warn everybody. Show me a court case somewhere, somebody where you won by saying, I just streamed it, I didn't download it. Because that's kind of something that's floated around.
Yeah, and just be cautious about where your information is going. Who are you giving your credit card information to? What's actually happening with that information once it's out there? I would much rather give my information to a verified, legitimate legal service where I feel like my information will be safe.
Yeah. I do think, though, sometimes the police hurt themselves a little bit in these arguments, like, oh, you're funding massive crime networks. I wish they would either give us a clear example of how a pirate service like this is funding a massive crime network, or try not to use that argument, because it doesn't.
Sure.
So far, that hasn't panned out. But it is true that, hey, you do run the risk of getting your information taken in a rate like this. So, any last comments on this?
No, just be careful, everybody. Make good choices.
All right. 200 cable companies are suing to block a la carte TV. Jess, what's happening here?
So much is happening here. So last week we talked about Comcast, Disney, CBS, and Fox suing to block a law in Maine that was requiring cable companies to offer a la carte TV. And we had a good discussion about this because for a lot of TV subscribers, the idea of a la carte sounds great, right? You can pick and choose which channels you want, which networks you want. However, for cable companies, it's not such a great deal. So there's now a second lawsuit that's being filed by the National Cable and Telecommunications Association, and that association is representing 200 cable networks. So just as a quick refresher, Maine recently passed a law requiring cable operators to offer the option of purchasing individual channels. So for cable companies, that means that if there's not enough interest in one channel, one network, they would almost be forced to shut it down, which means that these companies would be losing out on profit from these channels. So the cable companies are now fighting back. They are not happy about this law, and they want to stop it. They don't want it to pass in Maine, and they don't want it to expand around the rest of the country. So the interesting part about this is that the law was set to take effect today, September 19th. So now we wait and see what's going to happen, if this is going to go anywhere, if the law will actually be passed, or if the cable companies will be victorious in their lawsuit.
Yeah, we're kind of waiting. I have not heard this time if the judge has passed a ruling on this or not, but we're waiting and watching closely to see if there is an update, if they are posting any additional news about this. If we hear anything, we'll post. But this has really shaken up the TV industry. So we have the content owners, the ABC, NBCs, Foxes, etc., suing. But now we have the vast majority of cable networks, it seems like, suing to block this too. They are very scared of the possibility of a la carte destroying their business. Let's just be honest. It would likely destroy the ability for a la carte TV or cable TV to be successfully profitable. Because I believe not only does it require them to sell an individual channel, but an individual show, which we already kind of have. But it'll be interesting to see if that requires them to also go out there and offer, like, same time. Instead of get the show tomorrow, you get the show today.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out because this seems like a la carte seems like it would be a great idea for the customers. So if there are only 5 channels that you love to watch, you want to pay for only those 5 channels. However, I think it's worth mentioning that there might be some smaller channels that you really love watching, and those smaller channels likely would not survive if this law was passed. Just because there wouldn't be enough interest, it wouldn't be worth it for these companies to keep the channel. So just keep in mind that this would also mean that you would probably lose out on some content that you love to watch.
Yeah, so we'll see how this plays out. We'll see what happens here. But I find it very interesting how quickly cable companies are rallying to be like, oh, no.
Yes, in huge numbers.
I mean, I'm sure a vast majority of those 200 cable companies don't even have a presence in Maine. But being that that's a group of them representing all, that I'm sure they do have cable affiliates in Maine that they could have, say, hey, we have a legitimate case here because this, and this company are in Maine and are using there.
So do you think that this law will go through, or do you think it will be stopped?
I wouldn't be surprised to see it's held for the purpose of the court hearing. But will they win or not is anyone's guess right now. I could really see a judge going both ways on this, but would not be surprised at all for them to say, hey, we're going to put this case on hold as we go and look, or this new law on hold as we go through this case and try to rule if this is legal or not.
Sure.
So, yeah, we'll keep an update. Get your votes in the comments if you're watching us live. Let us know who you think will be winning this case. And let's get on to the next news of the story. There's another lawsuit that claims that AT&T inflated DirecTV Now subscriber numbers, according to another attempt at a class action lawsuit. I want to say this is the 3rd class action lawsuit attempt happening this year from investors who claim that AT&T artificially inflated DirecTV Now subscriber numbers by creating fake accounts. And we do know that there were some fake accounts created, that AT&T was paying store associates commissions for each DirecTV Now account they created. Some stores were going and creating accounts even when the customer didn't ask for it. And AT&T did fire some people in Hawaii for that. But according to this lawsuit, they say that those practices of creating fake accounts was encouraged by managers at AT&T. That basically this wasn't just a couple random people, but an organized, coordinated effort to create fake accounts to artificially prop up DirecTV Now. And this comes at a time that AT&T is facing a lot of headwinds with their TV services. They have an investor who's aggressively pushing for them to sell it, to shake up DirecTV Now. There's been mixed reports. Yesterday, Wall Street Journal reported that AT&T planned to sell DirecTV. Today's CNBC says no, they're not, but they are looking for ways to try to shake it up, get subscriber losses down, and become more profitable. So there's clearly something happening here, but the question is, was it just a few people at ground level, right? Can you really blame AT&T for what somebody there did? But according to this lawsuit, they have widespread reports of this, and according to one former Michigan employee, an estimated that around 40 to 50% of customers he dealt with beginning in early 2017 complained of being billed for DirecTV Now when they had never signed up for it. So, I don't know, Jess, what do you think?
I think this is very interesting, but I think it won't be long before we find out what happened, only because if this was a widespread company-wide thing, you know that there's some email, some inter-company memo going around where they encouraged it using probably the right kind of language to maybe keep them out of trouble. But you know that's going to surface at some point. It'll show up on Reddit. Someone will post a screenshot from a throwaway account, and then we'll get some more information. And
how hard would it be for AT&T just to say, yeah, there may have been 1 or 2 bad eggs. We've terminated them. It represented less than 1% of subscribers or something like that. Because,
Sure.
I mean, let's be honest. DirecTV Now, when it launched, especially in early 2017, was hot. It was very hot because it was driving crazy low costs. They started off ridiculously low, which probably hurt them in the end. They had ridiculously good promos. Hey, prepay for 3 months of DirecTV Now, get a free Apple TV 4K. Or was it just Apple TV then? I can't remember if they switched.
I think just Apple TV, but I'm not positive.
Later, maybe in 2018, they offered the 4K version. So there is definitely a reality of them going out there and being very aggressive. So I think AT&T can say, no, we were legitimately selling these accounts. But to have 3 lawsuits, there are definitely upset investors. We see that last week with the letter from one of their larger investors who has billions of dollars in AT&T shares, saying, hey, we want leadership change. We want DirecTV Now to either be spun off. We want to become profitable. This is not going the way we want it to go.
Yeah, and this is coming right after last week we talked about their letter to investors saying, just FYI, we're going to see lots of subscribers drop off. Don't worry about it. So this is all coming at a very interesting time.
Yeah, AT&T's warned that they expect to lose another 1 million subscribers in the third quarter of 2019. Now, what I find interesting real quick here is all the reports have been that they wanted to use DirecTV to push people to HBO Max, to push people to the new AT&T TV, the streaming version of DirecTV. Let's talk about these reports that AT&T wants to sell off DirecTV, which were reported by the Wall Street Journal yesterday. Today, CNBC came out and said, no, that's not happening. To me, that doesn't make sense. Now, it may make sense a year or two down the road once they feel like they've moved as many people over to their streaming services as they can. But trying to sell it now, before you even launch HBO Max, before you can try to bundle this, doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, Jess. Does it make sense to you?
Nothing that AT&T has been doing lately has made any sense to me. I wouldn't be surprised about any announcements. Whoops, just hit my microphone. I wouldn't be surprised about any announcements that are coming. I do agree, though. It seems like just the wrong time right after releasing this letter, warning about lower subscriber counts with all of this stuff happening. It just seems like the wrong time for them to make a big move like that. But again, would not be surprised by anything.
Yeah, we'll watch this closely. But AT&T's under pressure. There is pressure on AT&T to say, hey, your investors, when you're a publicly traded company, you're beholden to the investors, and when it all really comes down to it, are unhappy. They're not happy with AT&T's current strategies and methods with their TV plans. Mm-hmm. Now AT&T is kind of saying, hey, give us a little bit of time. We have a new idea, AT&T TV, HBO Max, that will save everything. Now I think we have to wait and see if it does or doesn't. So let me know, Jess. We'll keep a close eye on it. And should we move on to the next story now?
Yeah, let's talk about MoviePass. So I have a ton of news about MoviePass. They have officially shut down as of a couple days ago. In case you're not familiar, anyone, with what MoviePass is, it was a service with a flat monthly fee of $9.99 that would let you see multiple movies in theaters. So this was great for people who loved going and seeing multiple movies every year, every month. There was talk of financial struggles kind of from the get-go with this. And then there was a confirmed security lapse that compromised customer credit card information. And that was really kind of the nail in the coffin for MoviePass. So MoviePass now has a statement on their website. And in that statement, they're calling this a service disruption. And it says in that statement that they are unable to predict if or when MoviePass services will continue, which is kind of an interesting statement, but I think it's safe to say that it's not looking good for MoviePass. Yeah. They've been struggling for a very long time. And from the reactions that I've been reading on the Facebook group and on the blog, people are not surprised at all about any of this. One other note is that subscribers will receive refunds for the period after the shutdown that they've already paid for. So if you were subscribed to MoviePass and you had prepaid for a month, they will be refunding customers. You don't have to do anything to get that refund. It will happen automatically.
Yeah, we subscribed to MoviePass for a little while, just ended up not getting enough use out of it to justify it. I thought my wife would because she's a huge movie fan, and just didn't. But I love the service. I love the idea, the ability to, pay a monthly fee like Netflix and just go to all the movies you want to see, with the hope that movie theaters will make a ton of money off popcorn and candy and Coke, which is where they make most of their money anyways. but it never seemed to really catch on, and they faced a lot of headway, right? Because most people just have one or two main movie chains in their town, and they usually have one that they like. And AMC, I think, and others, I'm pretty sure AMC was one of them, launched competitor services to MoviePass, and came out here and said, hey, we can do this on our own. We don't need MoviePass. We can tie it to a reward system and do different things that MoviePass can't do. And they had the name, and they had a reputation for being stable where MoviePass didn't. So I think that really hurt MoviePass also.
I think so too. And I also just want to give a little inside scoop for anyone listening to the podcast. I do have an update on this story. I just started writing it, so it'll probably go up sometime later today or this week. But a former MoviePass chairman, his name is Ted Farnsworth, is interested in bringing back this recently shut down service. So this was in a report from Variety that I was just reading before we started recording. Apparently Farnsworth has already submitted an offer to buy MoviePass along with MoviePass Films, which is a production company that they started in 2018, as well as MoviePhone. So that's kind of interesting. It seems like he really believes in this service, or at least believes in its ability to make a profit, and he is interested in bringing it back.
Yeah, I think MoviePass should be profitable. I think a service like MoviePass should work out. Now, being the first one through the door, through the glass door, and smashing it open for other people to walk in behind you doesn't always make you the most successful one. So often it does. Often being first to market is a huge help. But sometimes when you're completely trying to disrupt a market, it allows other people to sit back and say, hey, let's see what MoviePass does. Let's learn from their mistake, and then let's go and offer something better. And I kind of have a feeling that's what happened here. Could MoviePass come back? Probably. I think, though, I wonder if the MoviePass name is going to be a negative to any future service like this. Would they have to rebrand it as something different?
I was thinking the very same thing. And I think it was really that security breach that did it for them. I think that people will associate the name with that security breach. So if this deal does go through, he already submitted an offer. If it's accepted, I think that he would be very smart to rebrand a little bit.
Yes, and then there are the fact that MoviePass is an awesome name. I mean, it's a really awesome name for this. So we'll see. But we're going to keep a close eye on this story. If it comes back, we'll let you know. But there are still services like this out there where you can go and get it if you so choose to have a MoviePass type service.
Yeah, we could always do a post, too, about alternatives to MoviePass.
Write it down, Jess.
Add it onto my list.
All right. Let's move on, because PlayStation Vue has been struggling to gain market share. We kind of broke down what's happening here. I want to ask you, Jess, if you think if PlayStation Vue can turn this around and become extremely successful. But recently, we've learned that PlayStation Vue has dropped behind Philo, Sling TV, Hulu, and AT&T TV Now to become the 6th most popular live TV service. A few years ago, it was battling to be the most popular live TV service. It was the 2nd live TV service on the market when all these services came on after Sling TV. But it's really languished recently, really struggled. And I kind of wrote down my thoughts on this. So I want to read off a few key points I thought really hurt PlayStation Vue, and let me know what everybody here thinks. Leave us a comment. But marketing. One of the things I think hurt them from day one was the name, and the fact that they spent most of their marketing trying to explain that you didn't need a PlayStation. When you're trying to explain that you don't need a PlayStation, and that's where most of your marketing is going, it does mean that you're not putting most of your marketing into why you're better than your competitors. And if you can't explain why you're better than your competitors, you're going to struggle. Let's just be honest. You're going to struggle if you can't explain why you stand out. And the name confusion was the other one. And communication with subscribers. I think this was a big one for many people, is they still don't have a dedicated PlayStation Vue social media. Everything is run through the Sony PlayStation media. You have to have a Sony PlayStation account and more. And I think that hurts them. I think the ability to be forced to use PlayStation's services confuses it even more. Lack of direct communication, lack of effective communication with their subscribers. Though they've been trying to get slightly better about that recently, I think that hurt them early on. And this raises the big question. Does Sony care? They've dramatically cut back on marketing recently. We're not seeing banner ads. We're not seeing the TV ads we used to. What does Sony want from the future? Are they going to go for sale soon? Will PlayStation Vue be sold? Will they shut down? I don't think either one's going to happen, But I do believe that Sony is pulling back on it. I don't think Sony's putting as much effort into PlayStation Vue as they did a year ago. What's your reaction?
I completely agree with you about all of those points. I think for me, something that I would add to the list would be the lack of original series. I think that that is a spot where a lot of other services are really pulling in subscribers, and they're really using that to advertise their services. Hulu, Netflix especially, but then YouTube TV has some originals. It seems like all of the streaming services are kind of coming out with these, and we just haven't heard about that from PlayStation Vue. So I think that if they could really, it seems like they don't want to invest in the streaming service, and that's kind of a disappointment. If they were willing to invest in creating some original shows, some original movies, and just marketing better, like you said, I think that they would be doing fine, because we always say people who are PlayStation Vue subscribers absolutely love the service. And I think that they could get a much higher subscriber count if they would just invest resources a little more.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I've said this for years now. Not all these live TV services will make it. I think PlayStation Vue could make it. They have a very loyal, very dedicated fan base that thinks it's absolutely the best. But they've never been able to, since the competition from Hulu and YouTube and others come up, been able to really grow like the other services have. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But unless you have anything else, should we go to the last story of the day?
Sure, yeah. So we have some more Roku news. Roku just released a study, my favorite thing, a research study. I just love all this data and percentages and things. So in the study, they were looking at the growth of streaming, specifically relating to Roku, but also offering some general insight into the growth of streaming. So in the study, we learned that 98% of Roku cord cutters say that they will never go back to cable. 98%, that's huge. 2/3 say they wish that they had cut the cord sooner. And 74% say that streaming is more convenient to them than traditional pay TV. The Roku study also looked at trends in streaming growth, and it showed that 2 million Americans have cut the cord so far in 2019, compared to 3.5 million in all of 2018. There were some other interesting stats, including that 21% of all TV households have officially cut the cord. And this one was kind of surprising to me. The average age of a cord cutter is 47 years old.
Yeah, all this jumped out at me at first, like, wow, 98% would never go back to cable. And then my first reaction was, that's high. And I thought, nope, that's kind of low. Why isn't it 100%? I've really only met a couple people who legitimately were like, I'm going to go back to cable. And
every once in a while we get an email or a Facebook comment saying that they're going back.
I can't tell you how many times I got messages like I was pulled back in by a deal that sounded too good to be true, and then of course it wasn't, and now I'm paying way more than I was before. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Were you surprised by the average age of a cord cutter being 47 years old?
No, not at all, to be honest with you. Because we've seen this, we talked about this on our site before, how it's a lot older than people is. Cord cutting is not about 18, 19, 20-year-olds, because they're in their parents' basement. I know, millennials joke, no. But in reality, they're at college. Colleges typically offer TV. They're in an off-campus apartment. Most off-campus apartments compete with colleges by offering TV. So no, it doesn't surprise me at all, to be honest with you.
I guess I've just heard too many reports and different news organizations saying that this is a millennial thing. And so I guess I expected that to bring the age down a little bit. Not that 47 is old by any means, but as an average age, it was a little bit higher than I expected.
Yeah. One of the things I thought was interesting is 2/3 said they wish they had done it sooner. I thought that was great. And 47% said they thought cord cutting streaming was more convenient than traditional pay TVs. That I thought was a little interesting. So we'll wait and see how this plays out, but we'll be watching it. Let me know if this lines up with what you see.
Yeah, I'm also interested to hear more about people who have been cord cutters, have gone back to cable, and then have come back to cord cutting. So if that's your story, please leave a comment. I would love to hear your story.
All right. Jess, do you have any questions for us today?
I do. I have two questions today, and then I will check the YouTube comments and see if there are any more.
Okay.
So, our first question, is there an inexpensive way to record OTA TV shows?
Yes, there's many DVRs out there to do that. You can get like a recast DVR or a Channel Master or a TiVo or Tableau DVR. Check them out. Find out if you can get a sale price. That's always good. There are softwares out there that allow you to turn like a media center into one. But there's so many DVD player or DVRs out there to pick from. I would shop around and see what you can find. But check out for sales. I think the Fire TV Recast is on sale right now. It's under like 160 some dollars right now. So check that out. See if that's a good fit for you.
Yeah, also, so it's September now, so if you can wait a while, Black Friday is coming up,
Yeah.
and that is a great time to get a good deal on these things.
Yeah, so I'll have to wait and see there and see how it plays out. All right, next
All
question.
right, and my second question for you is we've gotten some questions lately about people considering switching internet providers, but they're worried about the data cap. Do you have any insight about what people should be looking out for?
Yeah, most data caps now are about a terabyte, which is very doable for most cord cutters. I would highly recommend you turn off autoplay. That's the number one data cap eater. But look at your current data usage. Most internet providers, even if they don't have a data cap, will tell you what your data usage is, or you can turn that feature on for your router and monitor your data usage through your router. So just some basic things like stopping the stream when you're not actually watching the TV. It's a huge saving to your data cap. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about your data cap. Try to use your router to see if you can monitor that. See if your internet service provider currently lets you see what your data usage is now and go from there.
All right, those are all the questions I have for you.
All right. Well, let's get into recommendations then, Jess. What are you watching this week?
All right, I'm pretty excited about my recommendation this week. So, we've gotten a lot of questions lately also about watching classic TV shows. So, I just wanted to point out that these free streaming services like the Roku channel, my recommendation this week, they have a great selection of classic TV shows. There's some from like the 60s, 70s, but a ton from the 80s and 90s too. So my suggestion is to go and check out all these free streaming services and look for these classic shows and movies that you want. Now, okay, so this is what I was watching this week. The very classic, timeless movie, 1995, The Babysitter's Club.
There you go.
I found it on the Roku channel. I was so excited. It used to be my favorite movie when I was young, and I rewatched it and relived my childhood a little bit this week.
I'm going to recommend Mindhunter, which is a Netflix original series. Season 2 recently came out. I definitely consider it well worth your time. I really enjoyed the first season and would recommend the second season. So if you haven't checked out Mindhunter, check out season 1. Really great. If you've seen season 1, check out season 2. I think you will enjoy it. So that's it for today. Thank you everybody for joining in with us. Sorry if you were watching us live and had our audio problem at the beginning. We appreciate your support. We will be back next week, Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern, here on YouTube to talk all things cord cutting with you, breaking down some of the biggest stories happening in the world of cord cutting right now. And make sure you check out Cord Cutters News all week, as this is just a small fraction of the stories we cover at cordcuttersnews.com. Thanks everybody for your support. We really appreciate it. We'll see